What are the 3 rules for effective self-defense? So, welcome. My name is Matt Stay, and this is Modern Samurai Online. If you haven't joined us before, then please make sure you subscribe, click the bell notification. We upload reasonably regularly, and there's lots of good stuff to get involved with. So, the first thing we've got to look at is what is self-defense, or I prefer the term in this instance, personal protection, because what we're talking about is things that we can do and things that we should do to make our training more specific to us as individuals and give us a higher success percentage rate, which is what we're talking about. Okay, so firstly, we need to understand that there is a big difference between self-defense, personal protection, and martial arts as a whole. Now, this is in no way meant to criticize, but if we look at self-defense, personal protection, we've got to look at it in the way that a sculptor would look at a piece of rock. Okay, so what that sculptor does is it chips and chips away and it opens up what is underneath. So it takes away the unnecessary and that unfolds into what is a beautiful statue, so on and so forth. Okay, now, martial arts oftentimes is the complete opposite. It actually adds on and adds on and adds on. So there's a collecting of techniques, if you like. So people spend years and years building a library of knowledge and adding on and adding on and adding on. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a great way to spend your time. I've done it myself for many, many years. But what we're looking at when we're talking about effective personal protection is stripping back the layers, simple and useful and individual. And that's really important, because what we're talking about is what may work for me may not work for somebody else, given physicality, size, so on and so forth. Okay, so let's talk about some of these then. So my first rule is be honest with yourself. Now, this is an interesting one because, you know, we all want to be the hero in our own story. We all watch the movies and we all see the good guy beat up the bad guys and come out unscathed, you know, and we all think in our minds that we could do the same thing, when the reality of it is that that's not actually true in a lot of cases. Okay? We want to romanticize it. We want to glorify it. We like to think of ourselves as being the kind of people that would be able to come out the other end and look good while doing it, when in actual fact, that's probably not the case. And so we've got to be real with ourselves, and we've got to say, what are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? Okay. And then we build around that. So as an example, if I'm a 350-pound guy, I'm massively out of shape and I'm unfit, running isn't going to be my go-to response. And the reason for that is because basically I'm not going to be able to outrun the bad guy. And when the bad guy does catch me, I'm going to have nothing left in the tank to fight back with. So I've got to factor that in. So if I have, you know, medical conditions, if I have advantages or disadvantages in other ways, I want to bring those to bear. So if I'm extremely good at running, I'm young, I'm fit, I'm active, great, then running is going to be part of my sort of arsenal, if you will. If not, then it won't be. You know, if I'm very, very big, very, very strong, very, very capable, then maybe I'm going to think about, well, I'm actually just going to grab the person and ragdoll him, you know. Maybe that would be something I'd think about. Maybe I'd think, well, actually, I've had many years of martial arts training, and so maybe that would be my go-to. Okay, so think about what you're good at, think about what your strengths are, think about what your weaknesses are, and then look towards building your training around those. So again, be honest with yourself, really, really truthfully. I see it so many times. I see so many people out there that have this sort of feeling about their own capabilities that aren't there. And I'm the same, by the way. I mean, I'm not a young guy anymore. I'm not what I used to be. I can't physically do what I used to do at 25. And for me to think that I could is fooling myself. And that way is going to lead me down a pathway to trouble. So I've got to accept that, and I've got to find ways to work with that. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, train the outcomes. And again, this is really, really important. So if you think about who you are, where you are, how you live your life, the things that you do, your day-to-day interactions, all of those things should have a part to play in the way you train. So as an example of that, I don't spend any time training in ice skates. Why? Because I'm never in ice skates. I don't go ice skating, okay? So it makes no sense for me to spend a large portion of my time training that way, right? So if you want to change that over into a more martial arts setting, okay, if you train in bare feet, which lots of people do, and there are good reasons for doing that, and I'm not saying you shouldn't, okay, but if you only ever train in bare feet, but yet you spend all day in a pair of heavy duty work boots, the likelihood of something happening, the likelihood of you being able to bring to bear the skills that you have, it's going to be more likely that you're going to be wearing those heavy work boots because that's what you've got on all day long, than it is that you're going to be barefoot. And so even though you may have to train barefoot in your club, what have you, you should always make time to train in your work gear, to train in your social gear. Again, if you're a regular sort of nightclubber, if you regularly go out, that kind of thing, what are the things you wear when you're out and about? That's the kind of likely place where something's going to happen. You know, it's not going to be in the middle of the place where you train, fully warmed up in the right kit in bare feet. So train the outcomes, yeah? If you commute a lot, if you use a lot of public transport, think about those kind of situations and think about the kind of things that may become an issue there, okay? What are the flashpoints, you know, things like that. Okay, if you spend a lot of your time working in a manual setting, have you got tools, have you got equipment, will you be carrying things? Again, these are all things to bear in mind, the type of dress you're wearing, the type of environment that you're in, the type of threats that you will face. All of these things are very, very relevant to your individual training regime, because if you're not training for the outcomes, it's not going to work when you need it, okay? And so that's a vital point. That's number 2. And then finally, number 3, and this is gold dust, okay? Cultivate common sense. Sounds simple, but you would not believe the amount of times I have to reiterate this point to people. Okay? Cultivate common sense, right? You hear things like be your own bodyguard, all the rest of it, that sort of thing. But it doesn't have to be that sexy. It doesn't have to be that romantic. You can just make better choices, okay? So if you think about it, a lot of reasons why people get into trouble, not always, but a lot of reasons why, is because they make choices that lead them down that pathway. Now, I don't want to get all sort of preachy and say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't have fun, you shouldn't let go, you shouldn't party. I'm not saying any of that because, hey, I'm guilty of all of the above and more. You know, I've done some really stupid shit over the years. But what I am saying is, if you know you're going to be going to a situation that may be dangerous, then you can take steps to mitigate some of that, okay? If you can't avoid going altogether, which may be the case, then you can take steps, right? So whether that be sensible stuff like letting people know where you are, or when you go into a room, look for other exits, that kind of thing, or even something like not wearing a stupid t-shirt with an inflammatory slogan on it that's going to cause a row from people, you know, things like that. So just common sense stuff, right? So if you apply those 3 principles to whatever it is kind of that you do in a training environment towards your own personal self-defense, right, it will improve. Okay, your chances of success will be greater. That doesn't mean to say it's guaranteed, because nothing's guaranteed in the world. And if somebody says it is, smile politely, shake their hand and walk away. So what we're talking about here is trying to maximize the training that you do. There is absolutely no point in me training for a situation I'm never going to find myself in. It's a waste of my time and energy and money and resources and opportunities and all these other great things, okay? So for me, I look at this and I think, does it fit the criteria? All right. Does it fit me as a person and what I can do and what I'm capable of? Okay. Does it go towards my outcomes? And does it fit within what I think are the right choices at the right time? Okay. If it does all of those things, then great, fits my remit. I'm going to take that on board. If it doesn't, then I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to be dismissive. I'm not going to say, well, it's rubbish, mate. You know, I'm not going to do that whole, oh, my style's better than yours kind of stuff, because there is no better style. There's just what's better for each individual person and what suits somebody better and what suits what they want to do with it. Okay, so up to you what you do with that information. Don't forget, guys, if you've got this far, then subscribe, give us a like, leave a comment. Always interested in knowing what other people think, and you know, and it's great to have that kind of conversation and dialogue. So if you've got any other points to add to this, if you think there should be a 4 or a 5 or even a 6, let me know, put it in the comments, and it'd be great to hear from you. See you next time.